Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 62 of the Don't Be Ridiculous podcast. Jeremy Palmer, Clark Palmer here with you. Just a warning, make sure you like, subscribe, comment. Let us know how we're doing, one way or the other. It's good. We had a weekend of NFL games. It's one of those things. I'm always a little bit sad when we don't have college football anymore. It's always a little disappointing that they basically take 3 or 4 weeks off from anything major happening. But now it's kind of like college football has kind of turned into free agency now because of the transfer portal. So
yeah,
it's kind of interesting to watch all the transfers, but a whole bunch of people have entered the transfer portal. We don't know where anybody's really going yet. So that's kind of a interesting subplot. But
it's like Deion Sanders had his meeting with the Colorado players, and he's like, yeah, a couple of these positions we got taken care of, so you might want to just get up in that portal. I forget exactly what he said.
Yeah, basically the college coaches are turning into you're fired. You know what I mean? It's turning into Donald Trump on the what was the show he was on? The Apprentice, right?
The Apprentice, yeah.
So it's I was thinking about this. Like, I think basically what's going to happen is that the worst 10 to 15 guys in your roster, you're basically going to have to change those guys every year now. And then you're going to have to watch out that one of your better players doesn't jump to another school, because I just think it's going to happen. I think as players get better and they see that they might have some bigger value, they're just going to go to another school.
Yeah.
And I have no problem with it. It's kind of funny. Like, I was listening to Ryan Russillo's podcast, and I forget who he had some college football guy on, and he was like, you're going to lose a lot of your players. You're going to have to replace them, and like this is going to be hard on the coaches, right? So, Russillo's like, yeah, that's what the money's for. And he's kind of right. Like, look, tough deal, man. Like, I feel for you, but figure it out,
Yeah, you guys have been cutting bait and leaving schools forever now, so now you're complaining? Yeah, no, sorry.
All right, so let's dive into the Miami Dolphins. They had their second straight loss on Sunday night. Lost to the Chargers. Dolphins offense has been pretty pathetic for the last 2 games. So yeah, it's we can go into everything, but I just think look, the bottom line is this: the Dolphins still have a chance to get to the playoffs. And, we can have whatever opinions we want on it, but, it's a disappointing result, because I think now the chances of the Dolphins winning the division are pretty much slim to none at this point. So we'll see what happens. But all right, so go ahead, give me your overall take on the game.
Overall, so let's see. Yeah, I was thinking about this a lot today because I'm listening and watching a bunch of stuff about people reacting to the game last night. So, God, there's so many places to go with this.
Well, let's start here. Let's start with this. The Tua Herbert debate. I don't know. First of all, it shouldn't have really been a debate anyway. It's unfair to both guys. Okay, they're not in the same class. There's no point in discussing Tua versus Herbert. Like, I don't want to waste any time on it. It's unfair to both guys. It's unfair for Justin Herbert to be compared to Tua. It's unfair for anyone to think Tua is anywhere near Justin Herbert's level of talent or skill. So I think we just need to move on from that. If you're still debating that, then you need to go have your own podcast where you can discuss that.
Yeah. So I was listening to what is it? Speak. What is it? Speak now. It used to be Speak for Yourself. Okay. So Emmanuel Acho is basically saying, yeah, I apologize. I think I was wrong. Like, he goes into this whole thing like, yeah, I think I was wrong, And because he's been saying Tua's better than just better than Justin Herbert. And he's been going on and on and on about it.
Right.
And then Joy Taylor's like, well, I'm not going to let one game change my opinion. And it's like, it's not like Justin Herbert was unbelievable in this game. Whoa, stop. Okay. He was getting rushed like crazy. The Dolphins pass rush was actually pretty good in this game, and he still made plays. He didn't make as many plays down the field, but I would argue some of that's because he's getting pressured a lot. So, I thought his performance was really amazing. And they're like, oh, well, he only had one touchdown pass. Yeah, I mean, maybe he could have thrown more, but look, he was, like I said, he was throwing passes all over the field. He had a few deep passes. He had one pass where he rolled out and threw on the move, way down the field. And it's just I've seen him do stuff like that before. That's how much talent that guy has. And he's basically been, in my opinion, he kind of drags that team to wins because he's battling maybe some bad offensive coaching. Okay, so yeah, I thought Herbert really had a tremendous game. Okay, like I said, he's running around, he's avoiding the rush, he keeps completing passes, he's making plays. He had that one throw to the sideline that the guy was covered and he just threw it right to him, just an amazing throw. And it's not just amazing throws. I think he's dragging this team along because he's either battling bad coaching, bad offensive coaching. His coach seems to continue to go for it on fourth down when he shouldn't. His playmakers keep getting hurt. Defensively, they didn't have, even though their defense actually played really well, defensively they didn't have a lot of their best players, and they still played well. But, he's the kind of quarterback who can drag a team along even if they have deficiencies in different areas, like coaching or the playmakers aren't there, injuries, whatever. And he's shown that, not just in that game, but he's shown that through, the past, what has he been? He's been in the league 3 years now. He's shown that for the last 3 years. Watch the game against the Raiders, the last game of the year last year, when he's trying to get them to the playoffs. That drive he had at the end of the fourth quarter where he's trying to tie the game. And by the way, that game, again, he was battling his coach who kept going for it on fourth down and giving up points to the Raiders. The Chargers ended up losing that game, but Herbert was the only reason they were in it in the first place. So, and it's with him, it's been that way again and again and again. Okay, and also, he's got the size, he's got the arm strength, he's got the mobility, which you saw a little bit. You saw a little bit of the mobility last night, him running around a little bit. So yeah, and in terms of the debate between him and Tua's not that guy that can drag a team along. We saw that the first 2 years. If you don't have good offensive coaching and you don't have playmakers, and he had playmakers last night, and he had good coaching. Well, maybe he didn't have the best coaching last night, but he's had pretty good offensive coaching the whole year, and he couldn't overcome that. He was terrible. So comparing the two of them is pretty, it's a ridiculous comparison because Tua's never going to be in that class. And it's not just about one game, although Justin Herbert was amazing. It's about the past 3 years. So I guess before, I don't want to monopolize it. So I guess we've talked about Herbert. What do you think about Tua? After last night, not just after last night, but just in general up to this point.
Well, I think a lot of the things that we said at the beginning of the season have kind of come true, right? They can't run the ball well enough, which forces them to basically have to throw the ball all the time, which I have a problem with the fact that they don't try to run the ball more often. They come out in the first quarter, first series, and they throw the ball 3 times, and then they have to punt it. And I think, I think that, I think Tua is doing the best that he can do. I think that, he's obviously got 2 really good wide receivers, but, in the San Francisco game, I felt like he missed some open guys and it was understandable against the 49ers defense. The Chargers defense has not been good this season. So it's just it's frustrating to me that, we saw this earlier in the season in the Pittsburgh game, where if teams take away the middle of the field and there's no second move, like the Dolphins don't have an adjustment. And this is where, you have to be smart about this and say, all right, this is what Tua can do. So the coaching needs to adjust to that. And I don't feel that McDaniels adjusts very well. I don't feel that he kind of comes out and is like, this is what we do, and we're going to be aggressive and go after it. And there becomes a point where that's not really smart. There's no reason to be ultra aggressive in this game. What you want to do in this game is hang on to the ball, right? You don't want to give, you want Justin Herbert to have the ball as few minutes as possible and try to limit the possessions. That's what you want to try to do. And the Chargers are 28th in the NFL against the run or something like that. Yeah. So the fact that they didn't run the ball and McDaniels never adjusted in the second half, I'm watching the game and I haven't watched the YouTube breakdown yet, but they're dropping the linebackers deep. So why aren't we running a crossing route underneath it? Why aren't we running, routes into the flat, to the running backs and stuff? Why are we not using the tight end? Right? If they're gonna sell out on the wide receivers like that, why don't we find a guy? Because if you want the best guy on the Dolphins at catching the ball while he's covered is Mike Gesicki. That's what he does really well, and he has a size advantage over most guys trying to cover him. So all the stuff we said about Tua from the beginning has basically been true. Look, I don't think this guy's ever going to be great. You asked me what I thought his ceiling was earlier today. I think Kirk Cousins is his ceiling. I'm not saying he'll ever be that good, but he does some things better than Kirk Cousins does. But yeah, I just think with this team, you've got to do this a little bit better. And the thing is that we get into is, well, the coaching should have done this. They should have run the ball more. When you're complaining about that stuff, it's because your quarterback's limited. That's generally the thought process there. So I think I think that let's see how Tua finishes the season. I'm not a pack it up and move on. Although at this point the Dolphins can't really move on. They don't really have a choice. But yeah, I think that Tua was really bad. He was really bad. But he also the coaching and the running backs and the offensive line didn't do a whole lot to help him out either.
Well, yeah, and basically I think the point that I wanted to make was because I feel like maybe some people in the media weren't really, aggressive or harsh enough. Tua was awful last night. Okay, their offense couldn't do anything. Literally, they couldn't do. And the thing is, I'm watching this game and I'm like, this reminds me of the first year. Remember, Tua got pulled out of the game twice in the first year because the offense couldn't do anything. Now some of that, you could argue they couldn't run the ball. They didn't have, the talent that they have now. But, it's just words don't even do it justice. Their offense was so inept yesterday. It was so they just couldn't move the ball. And then the other thing you talk about the adjustments, why, again, Tua's a quarterback that really needs to be managed. Okay, now every quarterback needs to be managed to an extent. Even Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid has to sometimes hey, it's too much street ball. You need to kind of relax it a little bit. But with Tua, it's especially true that you really need to make sure you're putting him in the right situations to succeed. Because if you don't, he's not. He was doing stuff last night where he's dropping back and then he's sort of chucking the ball in the middle of the field with 2 or 3 defenders around a receiver. And I'm like, what are you, and why didn't they do more screen passes? Also you mentioned the running game. They obviously should have ran the ball more. But, if Tua gets into a thing where he's not completing passes, you need to get him some completions. Easy completions where he just sees the receiver catch. It's kind of like in basketball when a shooter's playing really poorly and the defense for the other team, if say the shooter gets fouled, a defender will jump up and grab the ball after he shoots it so he doesn't see it go in. Because they don't want him to see it go in because they don't want his confidence to kind of get back, right? So with the quarterback, there needs to be some quick, completions that are easy that can, help gain some yards. They sucked on first and second down. And it kept happening series after series after series. They keep getting into third and long. I'm like, what are you guys doing?
They punted the ball 7 times.
Yeah, and again, we can talk about the adjustments, obviously, but the thing with Tua that hasn't changed is, look, if the situation's not perfect, and if he has to kind of come off his first read and sit in the pocket and read the defense, you're in trouble because he's probably going to make the wrong decision. He has to really kind of read the defense before the snap, and then he snaps the ball, and it's like, okay. And he'll do those things where he looks one way and then he throws the other way. I guess he's sort of reading things before the snap, but then after the snap, you don't really want him reading stuff. That's why you need to be doing rollouts where he only has to read half the field. Because I've seen him throw passes decently on quarterback rollouts and stuff like that. And running the ball so you can get play action. So they don't know that they're throwing the ball, then you can get receivers more open. You have to manage Tua better than this because there's limitations and they just are what they are at this point. It's not, and that's the thing that people are saying, oh, well, I don't want to jump off a cliff over one game. This isn't one game. We've been watching this dude for 3 years. Okay. He's got much better talent and much better coaching this year. And he still ends up falling into the same things that we were why is this that we were so concerned about the first 2 years? So, yeah, just really awful. And it's been 2 weeks in a row, essentially. And I think that the biggest concern is, the defenses, and a lot of people have been talking about this, the defenses for the first few months of the season were so concerned about getting beat over the top that they've been backing off. Well, the 49ers were like, well, no, we're not going to back off. We're going to kind of jam you at the line and mess up your timing. And that's a legitimate concern because if that happens, then you have to throw guys open. And we know this, that Tua doesn't really throw guys open. That's not his thing. So I think there needs to be there really need to be some adjustments. So yeah, McDaniel, I think that really concerns me that I haven't seen the adjustments both over the course week to week and the in-game adjustments at halftime that you would like to see. So
yeah, I think it's kind of simple. If they're going to play man underneath, then you run crossing routes. That's how you beat man coverage, or you run pick plays, right? That's essentially how you do it. If they're going to crowd the middle of the field, then you run out breaking routes. So there's only one. So even if the guy is covered, there's only one defender there. So it's kind of baffling to me that a coach wouldn't be able to figure that out and adjust at halftime. And so I think, I think that's what's going to have to happen in the future if anything is going to change. But the Dolphins made their bed. They decided that this was who they were going to go with, and we can see it's going to be really hard for the Dolphins to win playoff games this way because the problem is everybody's seen the tape now. This is the kind of defense that you're going to see from. They still have to play Buffalo, the Patriots, the Jets. These teams are all going to do the same thing.
Yep. Yeah, that's my concern now because, a couple weeks ago, them missing the playoffs was kind of that seems a little far-fetched. They could miss the playoffs now. They could totally miss the playoffs.
Well, they could, but there's still, we'll wrap up with the Dolphins, but, as far as their playoff picture goes, the teams that might catch the Dolphins are the Jets and the Patriots, and they play them. So it's the Dolphins could lose the next 2 games. They could lose to Buffalo and lose to Green Bay. If they win the last 2, they'll still get in. So right. They still have a really good shot at it, and they play the teams that they need to play, that they need to beat in order to get in. But it just makes me wonder though if, and I guess I already kind of knew this, but I just the Dolphins, they're if you're going to have Tua as your quarterback, you're going to be one of those teams that if they make the playoffs this year, they could probably miss it next year. Think about it this way: take away the Bills and the Ravens games, make those losses, which they, in all likelihood, if you played those games 5 or 6 times, they would probably be losses most of the time. Then the Dolphins are 6-6. Yeah, but they probably win the Vikings game and the Jets game if Tua's playing too. So
That's
you
true.
could play.
That's true.
You could play that. You could play that game.
Yeah, you can play that. You can play that either way. But I think
They're 8-5. That's about where they should be.
Yeah,
You know, they're 8-5. That's basically what they are. You know, and they're probably going to lose. I mean, I'm hopeful that they'll figure something. They'll play a little bit better against Buffalo, but in all likelihood, they're probably going to lose that game. They'll be 8-6. They're an 8-6 team. I mean,
but I'll tell you this: if you're rooting for the Tua Tagovailoa era to be short, you want them to miss the playoffs. Okay, because if they make the playoffs, then you can sort of talk yourself into a few more years of this and whatever.
yeah, but it doesn't really matter. There's no place else for them to go.
Yeah, I know. There's no place else for them to go next year. But, next year and probably the year after. But, I mean, it's just kind of, I don't know. I waffle between this. Part of me is just like, if you're not going to be a Super Bowl contender, just be bad. But then there's another part of me that's like, this is kind of fun. So I don't know where I'm at really.
I mean, sometimes you have to see this through to get some clarity. You know, if the point of this season is they get blown out by Buffalo, they make the playoffs and get beat by somebody else, maybe that's what they need to, see up close what the problems are and see if they can do something about it.
And let me just point one other we'll close this out, but one other thing. Okay. Something that really annoys me is, first of all, you don't necessarily want to overreact to one game, right? Totally fair opinion, right? But you don't want to underreact to what your eyes are telling you and what you're seeing on the screen, okay? That game last night is something to actually react to and go, oh, okay? Especially if you've watched a bunch of Tua, as we have, it's like, oh, okay, so we're back to because, it's become pretty clear to me that Tua's floor, like we talk about his ceiling a lot, but Tua's floor is one of the worst quarterbacks in the league. I mean, if this wasn't Tua and another quarterback played like that, we'd be like, you should probably replace that guy. Like, I mean,
well, it's bizarre. It's bizarre to have a quarterback who has some of the best numbers in the NFL and then look like he shouldn't even be out there. So that's really weird. Like, I don't know. I can't think of a whole lot of guys who are like that. You know what I mean? I can't think of an example of a guy who could play at an MVP level for 6 weeks and then be just can't complete more than 10 passes in a game. It's really bizarre.
Well, it reached the point last night you're watching, I'm like, okay, is he going to complete another pass? Because in the first half, he was like 3 of 17 for 25 yards in the first half. How? It's like the Patriots game at the end of last season. I don't know how you... it's just a level of ineptitude. I can't even...
I was listening to Mike Lombardi earlier today, and he's like, listen, if you think Tua is better than Herbert, then I'm going to offer you a free eye exam at Pearl Vision.
You know what? I just thought of this because I was seeing a news thing about this. If you think Tua is better than Justin Herbert, I got some cryptocurrency and some NFTs to sell you. Okay.
All right, and with that, we're going to move on to some other NFL stories. We can only bash it. We have a quota we have to fill about bashing the Dolphins. I think we're good. We're good for this week. So I wanted to, there's a couple things like that I wanted to talk about that kind of jumped out at me this week, and the media's reaction to it. So Baker Mayfield wins the game for the Rams. Okay, they're down 16-3 to the Raiders, which I'm watching and I'm just going, come on, Raiders. Like, this is ridiculous. They had so many chances to put that game out of reach. They kept getting the ball over and over and over. And Josh Jacobs is running all over the place. Like, I'm just like, guys, just kick some field goals here. Oh my God. And then Baker Mayfield leads them on a 98-yard drive after he had only been on the team for about 48 hours, which, I listen, I got to hand it to him. I mean, I think Baker Mayfield sucks, but I got to hand it to him. Like, the guy came in, like, that's a tough situation to be in, and he pulled it off. Good for you. Now, I think it says a lot more about the Raiders than it does about the Rams. Okay. But it just kind of shocked me the next day. Colin Cowherd's going, this is the best game, or I think he said the best game or the most important game of Baker Mayfield's career. And I'm going, really? A Thursday night on a bad Rams team that he probably won't even be playing for next year.
He's holding on.
Really?
He's just trying to hold on to a roster spot in the NFL. That's what Baker Mayfield's doing at this point.
Right. Hey man, and listen, he's good enough to get a job. Like I have no problem with that. Like, but I don't want to overstate it and act like, well, and then the other thing that Cowherd said that was crazy, he's earned himself a starting quarterback job next year, and I went,
no.
He has? What are you talking about? And I'm like, go through the teams. Honestly, go sit down, go through the standings, and tell me the team that's going to take Baker Mayfield. Tell me. Houston's not going to do it because they're just going to draft a guy, right? The only two I could come up with were the Indianapolis Colts. Yeah, Indianapolis Colts and the Houston Texans. Those are the only two that I think there's a possibility. But you're going to pay Baker Mayfield starting quarterback money?
Yeah.
It's delusional. Like, listen, it's great for Thursday night. Fantastic. Okay? They talk about being a prisoner of the moment. This is the ultimate prisoner of the moment thing, guys. No, Baker Mayfield still sucks. Okay?
Yeah.
No, I'm not taking him as my starting quarterback. Could he get a job in the NFL? Absolutely. He's good enough to play in the NFL. There's no doubt about that. But this guy, I'm sorry. I haven't believed in Baker Mayfield the entire time, and I don't anymore because he led one drive on a Thursday night
I think
game.
Baker Mayfield probably has, and this is dependent on health, I think the rest of his career is probably going to go, it's probably going to go like Andy Dalton's career, right? Now, Andy Dalton was in Cincinnati for a while, right? And now he just bounces around the league, and everyone, that team has him, and he's starting games. I think that's kind of what the rest of his Baker Mayfield's career is going to be like. And it's kind of, it's crazy because didn't they offer him an extension? Cleveland offered him an extension, and he didn't take it. So.
Yeah, where would we be if that were the case? So I want to go through some of these quarterback issues that I feel that people are overreacting to. Shockingly, the sports media is overreacting to a few of these things that I think are absolutely insane, and we need to just don't be ridiculous. Calm down. Okay. Number one, Brock Purdy with the 49ers. Look, the 49ers are really good. Like, we've seen it now, okay? Now, that game yesterday, I think Tampa sucks.
Yeah.
I'm just going to be honest. Tampa's terrible. Like, I don't take anything that I'm not blown away by the fact that San Francisco handled Tampa. Tampa can't score 20 points against anyone. Like, it's literally, they can only score in the fourth quarter under 5 minutes to go when teams are playing prevent. That's the only way that Tampa can score. Like, they literally, forget it. They can't run the ball. They can't do anything. The defense is okay, but not against this 49ers team. So, but back to Brock Purdy. Look, I'm happy for him. Guy started 4 years in college. He was the last guy picked in the draft. Like, he's doing what Shanahan's system allows you to do. They're loaded. They have so much talent. Deebo Samuel got injured yesterday, so we'll see if that's an issue, but they have so many guys to throw to. But do I believe in Brock Purdy in the playoffs? No. I'm sorry I don't. Look, I know they're in the NFC. I get it. And now it looks like, with the way Seattle's playing, it looks like San Francisco is going to win that division. They're going to get a home playoff game. But I'm sorry, if they're playing Dallas, I don't trust him doing anything against Dallas's defense. Yeah. I just don't. I'm not saying, could they possibly win a home playoff game? Sure. But do I think they're going to win 3 playoff games and go to the Super Bowl? No. San Francisco's Super Bowl chances are over. What do you think?
Yeah. I don't think I wouldn't really. Again, if they can get into playoff games and just run the ball really, really well, then, all right, maybe. But they'd have to, the year they made the Super Bowl, they ran the ball, insanely well. So, and that was with Jimmy Garoppolo. So, yeah, I don't really see it. Although the NFC's just, it's weird because I don't know who the hell I trust. So it's like Philadelphia. I mean, they went to the playoffs last year, but I don't know. How is Jalen Hurts going to be in a close game? I don't know. How is the Cowboys? I mean, I don't trust the Cowboys just because they're the Cowboys, and they've given me no reason to trust them over the last 20 years. I'm trying to think of who else is in the. I mean, it's like, and you got.
It's Philadelphia, Minnesota.
Yeah, Minnesota. Oh, yeah, Minnesota. I don't trust at all. They're not beating any good teams.
Yeah, so that's the argument right there. The argument is the NFC is wide open for the taking, and why can't San Francisco win it? Because they've got as much or more talent than everybody else. I understand that argument, but it doesn't make me, believe that. Oh yeah, Brock Purdy's definitely.
Yeah, no,
it's just that's just hard for me to fathom. The other one is okay, and this becomes a big deal because it's a New York team, the New York Jets. Mike White. Okay, who I like. I'm happy that the Jets got out of the, put Zach Wilson on a shelf and all right, we need to win games. We need a guy who's serviceable at quarterback.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what Mike White is. He is serviceable at quarterback, which is all they need. That's all the Jets need because the Jets do so many other things well. Their defense is really good. They can, they got the two corners are really good. Their defensive line's really good. They can run the ball. Their wide receivers are really talented. Garrett Wilson looks like he's going to be really good. So I'm happy about that. But any discussion past that about Mike White is our franchise quarterback, I don't know what to tell people. It's amazing. No, I'm sorry, Mike White is not your future. Knock it off. I understand that he's playing well for you, and I understand he can win games. I get it. There's a lot of guys that can win games. I understand. And I think you got to figure out the Zach Wilson thing at some point. These people who act like, well, the Zach Wilson's done, it's over with. No, it's not. Zach Wilson's way more talented than Mike White is. So you're going to have to see that through for next season and figure out what you're going to do. But this idea that Mike White is your future, come on, Jets fans, take it easy.
Yeah, I would kind of slow down on that. But I mean, again, with them, they're one of those teams. Can you just go in there and you can make some plays here and there and just run the offense, and we're not going to worry about you, being an idiot off the field or saying stupid stuff or not taking responsibility when you play like shit, which were all problems with Zach Wilson. So, I think that's kind of what they need. So as far as what the future is, I don't know. I mean, they're one of many teams that just don't have, and there's only a few really, really, truly elite quarterbacks. So,
yeah. So, just looking at the playoff picture, there's a couple of things that kind of jump out at me that I think are pretty interesting. So, number one, the fact that some crappy team from the NFC South is going to make the playoffs it's an abomination.
Let's root for the Panthers.
Right. It is a blight on the NFL community. So, do you think Tampa Bay's 6-7, Carolina's 5-8? Do you think the Panthers can win the division?
Who do they have left?
They played Tampa one more time, I think. Let me see here. They are playing. So yeah. This schedule, they're playing the Steelers, the Lions, at Tampa, and at the Saints.
All right. Well, I guess that's.
I think they can make it. You know why? Because I think Tampa's going to lose their next two games. Tampa has to play Cincinnati, and then at Arizona. So
okay,
I think Carolina could take that spot. I think if the Bucks lose their next two games, I think it's right there for Carolina to take them. And listen, I don't believe in Sam Darnold at all. But
yeah, no. Well, now this one's so Carolina goes on the road to play Tampa. That's right. Carolina beat the crap out of Tampa Bay earlier this year. Right. So, okay. Yeah, I mean, Pittsburgh, I mean, you're not going to have to worry about scoring a bunch of points against Pittsburgh because their offense sucks. which I find really funny that Colin Cowherd was on his show today saying, "Yeah, I can't watch Mitch Trubisky," and I'm like, "Dude, you were so excited in the offseason about them signing him, and now you can't even watch him." So,
yeah, he was terrible.
Yeah,
God. Yeah, so I think it's going to be. I think this is going to be absolutely hysterical. So Carolina, let's go through this. So Carolina trades away Christian McCaffrey, right? They cut Baker Mayfield.
They fire their coach.
Right, they fire the coach. They traded not DJ Moore, but the other guy. Robbie Anderson. They traded Robbie Anderson to Arizona, right? So they got rid of 3 of players who were starters for them. You know, they fire the coach, and they might make the playoffs. And honestly, Clark, the first game of the season, the Cleveland kicker had to kick like a 60-yard field goal to beat them. If he doesn't make that, right, Matt Rule's probably still the coach. Like, that's how crazy this shit is. Like, so all right, so we'll go through the playoff picture. So NFC wise, I mean, Philadelphia basically has it locked up almost. They need 2 more wins to basically finish. I mean, Philadelphia plays Chicago, then they play Dallas, which that's going to be an interesting game to see how Dallas plays them when they have Dak Prescott. So I'm interested to see. But if Philadelphia wins their next 2 games, then they can basically take the last 2 games off. They'll have it clinched because of Minnesota's loss. Minnesota is still the 2 seed. Literally nobody believes in us, number 2 seed.
Yeah.
Right. San Francisco's got the 3 seed at 9-4. Tampa Bay is 4th somehow at 6-7. It's such a travesty. The Dallas Cowboys have 10 wins. That's 4 more wins than Tampa does, but Dallas is not going to get to play a home game in the playoffs. And then it's Washington, the Giants, and then that's the 7, and then Seattle and Detroit are right behind them. So
can I just say something real quick?
Yes.
Okay. So Tampa Bay getting into the playoffs because division winners are guaranteed a playoff spot. Okay. College football fans, this is why I don't like conferences getting automatic berths. Okay. Because this is the kind of crap that can happen where you get a team that's like, oh my God, really? We're putting that team in? You know, I know it's a little different because in the NFL you can lose a lot more games, but still, anyway, continue.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. You know, anybody who's in favor of the rule, you got to have a winning record to make the playoffs. I'm kind of okay with it. You know, but I think Carolina's going to catch them. I do. I think, and honestly, Clark, look at it this way. If Tom Brady had not pulled 2 games completely out of his ass, the Rams game, like that game was over and the Rams decided to let people get out of bounds. I don't know why they did that. And then the Saints game, you know, if the Mark Ingram doesn't go out of bounds, then they probably lose. So the fact that they're 6-7 is a joke. They're not even that good. So, yeah. You know, Carolina, look, Carolina's defense is good. You know, they have some talent on their team. You know, are they really good? Are they going to go anywhere in the playoffs? No, of course not. But they can win this shitty division. The other thing is people got all excited about the Lions now because they beat Minnesota. So I'm hearing today, you know, Dan Patrick's like, this team's a problem. And I'm going, they're a problem. Like, you know, all right, take it easy now. Okay. Detroit's 6-7. Okay. Like listen, I'm happy for Detroit. Like, it's great that they have that offense. They can score, blah, blah, blah. But no, I do not believe in the Detroit Lions as a playoff team. Like, come on. You know, I think it's absolutely insane.
Well, but I mean, it's, you know, if you look at the other teams there that they would be competing with, I mean, it's not really like, I mean, who else are they going to be competing with? So, like, maybe Carolina, Seattle, because they're trying to compete with the Bucs, and so the Bucs, I guess, fall into that. And then you got the Giants. Nobody buys into the Giants. You got the Redskins, who are, you know, I don't really buy the Redskins, but I don't really buy the Lions either. So it's kind of like, all right, we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I do think the Lions are more exciting. They're a more exciting team than some of these other ones. So I have no problem if they get in. But anybody trying to tell me that the Lions are for real, I'm sorry, I'm not buying it.
No, I don't buy that.
I'm just not buying it. All right, so going over to the AFC, Buffalo, Kansas City are both 10-3, but Buffalo has the tiebreaker because they beat Kansas City earlier. So Buffalo's in line to get the 1 seed. Baltimore's at 9-4, which I was sitting there yesterday going, Baltimore, they're playing Pittsburgh. Tyler Huntley gets hurt, and I'm like, come on. Like, there's no way they should be winning this game. Cincinnati's a better team. They should win that division, and maybe that'll still happen. But somehow Baltimore got out of there with a win. I don't know how. Well, I do know how. His name is Mitch Trubisky. That's how they won. So Tennessee is 7-6. They're the 4 seed. Cincinnati's a 5 seed at 9-4. Then you have the Dolphins at 8-5. Chargers at 7-6. Jets are 7-6. Patriots are 6-6. They play tonight against Arizona. So I look at it like this: the Jets have to play the Lions next week. So I look at it like this: if the Patriots lose tonight and the Jets lose to the Lions next week, the Dolphins are basically in. I mean, it's just gonna be really difficult for me to buy that the Dolphins aren't going to get into the playoffs if those two things happen. I think they have a really good chance. Now, it's not a guarantee, right? I'm not guaranteeing it. They could fall apart, lose to the Patriots, lose to the Jets, and that'd be it. But I still think it's better. There's a really good chance that they get in. Now, are they going to do anything once they get in? Yeah, probably not.
I don't think so.
Yeah,
I just don't
it's
trust
hard for me
against a good team. I have a hard time believing they're going to be able to play good enough defense and to be able to run the ball and play, have their offense be really good. I just don't see it.
Yeah, and one thing I forgot to mention last night, like, it's not even like, here's the thing with the Dolphins that really bothers me, okay? Yeah, okay, Tua is not great. Fine. He didn't have to be great in these games, okay? You get a couple of field goals in the first half yesterday, the Dolphins would have won. Like, that's all you had to do. San Francisco, just, for God's sakes, they had the ball at midfield. They're down 6. If they punt the ball there, they're facing Brock Purdy. They probably stop them. They probably get the ball back, and they may have a chance to win the game. So it's not like we're not asking for miracles here. The Dolphins could have won. That's the most disappointing thing to me, Clark, is no, they didn't play well. They still could have won both those games if they'd have just managed it better. So anyway, I digress. But it's not like they had.
Yeah, well, I was going to say about you mentioned Baltimore. I think Lamar Jackson really screwed up because second year in a row he got hurt, and he's been out multiple games now. So now it's become he's injury prone. And also, even when he was in, like, their offense was kind of middling, Yeah. So it's kind of like I think he should have accepted the extension. I mean, not to say they're not going to maybe offer him another one, in the off season, but I think you really got to have concerns about the long-term future there. I mean, because if he's going to keep getting hurt, I don't know.
And honestly, Clark, if you literally just look at the NFL standings and look at the point differential, you can see who's legit and who isn't.
Yeah.
It's really simple. The Dolphins are +4. Buffalo is +132. I mean, I don't know how to tell people that Tennessee is -35. They're leading their division. Okay. Like Dallas is +131. Minnesota's -1. Who's better? I mean, I don't know. I don't even know what to say. Tampa Bay and Carolina, first and second in their division, they're both -30. San Francisco's +120. Like, you can literally see who the 5 teams in the NFL are that have any chance to win the Super Bowl. It's really clear. I can't remember what else I wanted to say there, but yeah, I think that I was really. Oh yeah, the other thing I got to talk about. So we were talking about the Panthers. Panthers beat Seattle yesterday. Yeah, I think Seattle. I think we probably jumped the gun a little bit there. I think I got to give up on Seattle. I was telling you, a month ago that Seattle's a real team. Blah blah blah. Well, they kind of are, but you know what? The running back got hurt. Kenneth Walker got hurt, and if they can't run the ball, it's really hard for them. The defense is now starting to struggle. They can't stop the run. So, yeah, I think we got to sell all our all our Seahawks suck. The other game I wanted to talk about was the Broncos.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know where that came from, but they get down 27-0 against Kansas City, and they came back and made that thing a game. Russell Wilson played the best game he's played the whole season, I think. You know, until he got injured, he was 23 of 36 for 247 yards, 3 touchdowns. Which, I mean, and he ran for a bunch of yards. Like, I mean, he ran for 57 yards. Like, I was shocked. I couldn't believe. And then he got knocked out of the game, and Denver got the ball a couple times with a chance to win, tie the game, but they couldn't do it. But yeah, that was pretty fascinating. Now, granted, Mahomes helped them out by throwing 3 interceptions, but that's because Denver's defense is really good.
Yeah.
So that's one of the things that surprised me from yesterday. You know, I still don't really believe in Denver. I don't think they're good at all, but it was impressive that they did that. I think the last thing we got to talk about is the Cowboys having quite a struggle against the Houston Texans yesterday. That game was fascinating. You know, Houston had the lead. They got the lead in the first half, and then they held the lead, and then Dallas had 17 points for, like, the entire second half. And then Houston stopped them on a 4th and 1. Or, I'm sorry, Houston went for it on 4th and goal and didn't get it. Otherwise, they probably win that game. And, so it's a little, I don't know. I think it's a little blip for the Cowboys, but, it's just, it's so funny. Like, if you start to believe in I think there are 3 teams that I really believe in, right? Kansas City, Buffalo, Cincinnati. I think those 3 teams, like, I really believe could make a run at the Super Bowl. I wouldn't question any of it. Everybody else, they got some issues. And I can't believe how remarkably easy this could be for Philadelphia, Clark. This could be insane how easy this is.
Yeah.
Philadelphia's they've almost wrapped up the bye. They could be playing, a team like, they might have to play Dallas again. Dallas is not going to be an easy game, we'll see. But you got to assume, you would assume like the NFC South winner is probably going to lose has a great chance to lose in the first round. What if the Eagles are playing the Giants? The Eagles are playing the Giants or the Commanders in the first playoff game in Philadelphia at home. They're just going to crush them. They'll be in the NFC Championship game at home, having not even really been challenged.
Yeah. Yeah. That's pretty interesting, especially because they only have to play 2 games. So, yeah, they probably have the easiest path, but I don't know. I could see it going south. They've just kind of dominated everybody all season long. And their schedule hasn't been really tough. So it's just, I don't know maybe they're just that good. Maybe that's just the deal. I don't know.
Yeah, I think they could, I think this year, the way the NFC is and the way the Eagles are built, I don't see any reason why they can't be in the Super Bowl. They're the best team in the NFC. I don't even think it's a question. Physically, they're right there with the best teams in the league. Their offensive and defensive lines are great. The quarterback's been playing really well. They can run the ball. Like, I don't trust anybody. What NFC team am I going, I really trust them to go into Philadelphia and win? Yeah. There isn't anybody. So, I think it could be the NFC playoffs might end up being pretty boring after the wild card games. We'll see. The AFC playoffs, however, I think are going to be quite fascinating. So, at this point, we're just finished week 14. Who you like going to the Super Bowl?
Oh, yeah, I guess I'll go with the Eagles and the God, that's tough. I guess I'll go with like the Eagles and the Bengals. The Bengals just beat the Chiefs again. The Bills, they kind of worry me a little bit in terms of the running game and in terms of their reliance so much on Josh Allen. Von Miller got hurt. He's done for the year. So, I guess I'm picking that. But again, it's all a matter of who, like I said a few podcasts ago, whoever can get into particularly in the NFC, but whoever can get into the playoffs and play the way that they want to play, they can go on a run and get to the Super Bowl. So if the Eagles can go out and play the way they want to play, then they're probably winning, and then in the AFC, it's some of it comes down to matchups, but we'll kind of see who can get hot and who's playing well. Maybe the Bills just, they've got it all together in the playoffs and they roll through, but we'll see.
Yeah, I like Philadelphia and Buffalo. I think Buffalo hangs on to this 1 seed. I think it's just gonna be really tough, especially you bring in weather where now it's like really hard. It becomes difficult to score. I'm taking Buffalo because Josh Allen's just going to make it happen, and I love how people like to ignore the fact that Buffalo basically has beaten Kansas City 3 times in a row. Like, they're 13 seconds away from beating them 3 times in a row. Like, I love how people ignore that. Last season, Buffalo blew out Kansas City in the regular season. I know that because I was at the game. Okay. Then they play them this year. They beat them, and basically Buffalo had the lead most of the second half. Okay. 13 seconds away in the playoff game, which I just can't see that happening very often. So I think I'm not saying Buffalo's a juggernaut, and Buffalo's they're clearly better than everybody else, but I just trust what I'm seeing from them more than anybody else. And Kansas City, they're really good, but they're not the same without Tyreek Hill. They're just not. It's not. They're not as explosive. Can they still put up points and do a lot of that? Yes, absolutely they can. But I would be concerned. Like the team I'd be worried about if I'm a Bills fan or I'm a Kansas City Chiefs fan is Cincinnati. I'd be worried about them because you know what? Because they've got everything you need. If they need to run the ball, they can run the ball. They have a receiver that you have to double team. Like you cannot single cover Jamar Chase ever. So that makes them. And if you watch Cincinnati play, their defense is getting better. They're pretty good anyway. But Cincinnati basically has they have the complete picture. They have good players in every unit of their team.
Yeah, well, and maybe we'll bring this full circle, but just guys, when you watch Joe Burrow or Josh Allen or Mahomes, especially in a close game, I feel like they're going to make plays. Maybe they don't win the game, but I feel like they're going to make plays, okay? And they're going to put your team in a position to potentially win the game, okay? With guys like Tua, even in a one-game scenario, could the Chargers with Justin Herbert maybe beat one of those teams? Possibly, depending on does he have his receivers and stuff. I feel like Herbert can make plays, okay? And that's kind of what it comes down to, really. Like the Eagles, are they going to be able to physically impose their will? And is Jalen Hurts going to make the plays that we've been seeing him make the whole year? If he does that, the Cowboys, if they can run the ball and their defense is playing lights out and Prescott just makes a few throws, they could potentially roll. I don't think it's going to happen because I don't trust the Cowboys at all, but that could potentially happen. So it's really all about being able to make plays, and that's kind of why we get irritated with Tua, because we just feel like he can't make plays.
Yeah, and listen, Jalen Hurts has the extra added dimension of he can run. Like you have to account for him in the running game because he can run. Their running backs are really good. They've got receivers that you got to double team. It just Philadelphia's got it everywhere it counts.
Well, and remember think of how good A.J. Brown is. Okay, the Eagles play the Titans and kick the shit out of them, and then they fire the GM who traded A.J. Brown from the Titans to the Eagles.
Yeah. Yeah, no, the Eagles are loaded, and that's the thing. We've got a handful of teams that are loaded, and then there's a bunch of teams with all kinds of flaws.
Yeah.
So I think that's a kind of a fascinating thing there. So, anything else you want to talk about NFL wise?
I I don't think so. I think we kind of covered it.
Yeah, so it looks like the weather in Buffalo is going to be pretty bad on Saturday night. So, I'm sure you share my not thrilled with how the Dolphins are going to play this weekend.
Yeah, also Tua just has not played well against the Bills in his 3 years for the most part. The last game he got hurt, but there was a game last year up in Buffalo, and he just wasn't good. Their offense really couldn't do much. And then the game, they were trying to make the playoffs his first year, and they had to go up to Buffalo the last game of the year, and they got absolutely annihilated. So yeah, Tua has not had, and it was cold. It wasn't snowing, but it was cold. So yeah, he has not had the best. He doesn't really play well against the Bills, and he doesn't play well in cold weather. So
yeah, it's gonna be a rough one. But look, the Dolphins have a great shot to make it. It'd be nice. It'd be nice to have the Dolphins in the playoffs for a change. But we know who we're going to be watching the later we get to mid-January. We know what teams it's going to be like. All right, you guys, it's nice that the Dolphins and and Tampa or Carolina or the New York Giants. It's nice that you guys can make the playoffs, but you need to get out of the way and let the real teams play. So take a back seat. Go sit at the kids' table. That's kind of how I look at the end. That's kind of how you have to look at it, right? The Dolphins are at the kids' table right now. All right.
Yeah.
They still get dinner.
Yep.
All right, folks. Thanks for tuning in. Enjoy the football, and we'll see what happens. We may do. We're going to have Saturday and Sunday football. Going forward. So we'll see. We'll see how that goes.
Yeah.
But yep. Thanks for listening.